An incredibly disturbing case of an 11-year-old boy receiving graphic video and images from a pedophile. He's now in prison, but that boy was not alone. It happened, according to his parents and police, through the popular video game Fortnite. That's on this edition of the Arizona's Family Investigates podcast. Anchor Nicole Kreitz looked into this story and spoke with the child's parents. Here's her report.
This was so grotesque and so over the top and so sexual in nature that it didn't even cross my mind that this is something that we would have to deal with.
These Scottsdale parents asked us to conceal their identity. Their son was only 11 when they caught a pedophile sending him graphic videos.
We had parental controls in place. We thought we were doing everything right. We checked his phone. We checked his computer.
They even paid for extra safety apps and features.
Unfortunately, the technology is very difficult to make bulletproof.
Nothing could have prepared them for the stranger who singled out their son.
It would not have occurred to me to say, and if a man shows you a picture of his penis, this is what you should do.
Their son is on the autism spectrum with ADHD.
So playing games and being online was sort of his outlet.
Fortnite is his favorite game. That's where he met this man.
Sir, state your name and date of birth.
Jacob Lozano, December 8th, 2000.
Jacob Lozano lied about his age to groom preteen boys online.
He moved them from Fortnite to Discord, and it started happening very, very quickly.
Maricopa County Prosecutor Maggie Toth says the digital evidence is irrefutable.
What he would videotape and send to them were things that no 11-year-old child should ever have to see.
That popular platform Discord lets hundreds of millions of users share videos and live chat, clicking a simple button to bypass so-called age restrictions.
It would go from talking about sexual acts openly to what do you like to do to yourself.
This man didn't have any criminal history, right?
He did not.
But no one does until they're caught.
Exactly.
That's why what these parents did as soon as they found out made all the difference, helping detectives build a case.
Scottsdale Police Department was able to identify the boys in Arizona, a boy in California, and I believe 2 boys in Georgia. There are more unknown victims.
They were on vacation when Grandma walked into their son's room before school.
She said, I saw a picture of male genitalia on his computer. What should I do?
Mom checked her emotions, locked down her son's apps and accounts, and reached out to police who took over his gaming console.
I sort of immediately knew that if there is something going on, we want to preserve everything that's been said and sent, because if we weren't very careful about it, then we could lose all the information that would tell us the extent of what he had been exposed to.
Does it ever show in the digital record that a voice chat happened or a length of time?
That's where it becomes a black hole, that we don't know what happens beyond that.
Because unless it's being recorded, it's gone.
While Discord's platform guidelines say they have a zero-tolerance policy against grooming, sexual exploitation of minors, and content that sexualizes children that they will report and ban users, they do not scan direct messages and group chats for illegal content.
The penalty after trial is significant. These are essentially numerous life counts.
Lozano pleaded guilty, sentenced to 32 years and lifetime probation as a level 3 sex offender. Detectives say Lozano sent cash and gift cards to some of the boys in exchange for sexual videos.
They know that these may not be things that they want to do, so if I say I'm going to send you a gift card for $100, well, then maybe I'll do it.
We heard from the detective that even one child, he delivered a pizza to his house.
I will never forgive myself for this happening under my nose.
To protect your kids, experts suggest you set screen time limits and check their accounts, watch for red flags like sneaking to play or hiding their screens, and no matter how young your child is, if you're letting them on any social platform, tell them to come to you if anyone shows them or talks to them about body parts covered by a bathing suit.
It's as awkward as it might be, as difficult as it might be, as busy as you might be. you still have to do it.
Their son is in counseling, and they say got solicited again not long after they allowed him back online.
I think it's not if this will happen, but probably when.
That's why you can't let anyone else beat you to those pivotal talks with your children.
Nothing is going to replace your direct parenting intervention.
Nicole joining us now. Tell me, how are you first alerted to this story?
Well, it just came up. We got a release from Maricopa County Attorney's Office about this Florida man who was sentenced to 32 years for child sexual exploitation, and explained a little bit of the connection of him trying to reach out to these kids on Fortnite. And there were 3 teens in Scottsdale. We ran a little pacer in our evening newscast, and I just, as a parent of 2 teens, I was like, I want to know more about that. So I reached out to the county attorney's office, asked if we could talk to the prosecutor, asked if we could talk to any of the families. And they said the family that alerted us to this case is very interested in speaking. They just want to conceal their identity because their son's, was only 11 when this happened. But it was just, to me, something like, you just hear about things like this happening, but to happen to 3 kids in Scottsdale and them only being 11 years old, that just was really a red flag for me.
Yeah, there were so many disturbing details about this story. Tell me, there's a lot when we're editing down a story for the newscast that you can't include. Are there certain details that really stuck with you that you weren't able to include?
Yeah, and that was the interesting part in talking with these 2 parents. They were both very interested in getting the word out because they said it's so important to educate other parents out there, because they said, I can't believe this happened on my watch. And that the details were so disturbing and so grotesque that they're like, it's really a fine line between wanting to educate even friends or neighbors or other family members. And they're like, how do we educate people without crossing that line of, giving them way too much information or oversharing, and then people being like, I didn't want to know that. And certainly when I looked at the court documents, the details of what this man, 13 years older than these young boys, was asking them to do. And prosecutors said when they went back through the digital evidence, it happened real quickly. First, it was like, hey, let's have a side chat on Discord. And, a lot of kids, I didn't even know really what Discord was all about, but it's basically like a WhatsApp. You can text, you can chat, you can do live videos, you can share videos, you can, engage with all different mediums and everything. So it's known in the gaming industry as like a place where gamers can go to share tips on how to get to the next level up in your gaming, that type of thing. So I think a lot of these boys were familiar with the concept of Discord, like going to get secrets on how to play Fortnite smarter or level up faster, those types of things. So when he asked them to have like a side chat on Discord, maybe that didn't raise a benchmark for them of like, this is a threat or something. But the things he was asking them to do, it started out like truth or dare type of things, like asking them how sexually experienced they were, to things like, hey, let's talk about this, or what do you do to make yourself feel good? And then it just escalated real quickly into removing clothes, showing body parts, asking for explicit poses, him showing videos, him bringing a dildo into the conversation and live chats and videos, and just things that you can't imagine an 11-year-old boy being exposed to, because they probably hadn't even, searched up anything like that on their own. They don't know that these things are out there. And the first time they're having, that was the shock to me, is like the first time they're having any kind of sexual experience or, even thoughts is coming from a predator, coming from a pedophile who's trying to groom them and trick them.
That is just terrifying. And these parents had controls. They had the parental controls in place. Is there something looking back on this that they said they would have done differently?
Yeah. And I think they said the main thing mom said was, we thought just by having, you talk about stranger danger, don't talk to strangers and stuff. And even the folks at Epic Games with Fortnite reached out to me after the story aired, and they say, we tell parents and kids, like, if you're under 13, you can't access certain texts and chats and stuff like that. And you can, as a parent, put on the controls that you can get a PIN number if they get a friend request, that then the parent has to put in the PIN number and stuff.
kids kind of know how to work around those things. And there are things like you can only be friends with people. You can default to everybody, friends and teammates, or friends only. And I think mom said that they allowed him, like, okay, you can only chat live in your Fortnite game with friends only. And then she said, so when he started talking about names of people who weren't classmates, she said, I probably could have like dug a little bit deeper, like, well, tell me more about this person, or what do you know about him? And I think as a mom, my husband is in law enforcement, and he's always like, you share too much with the kids. But it's not like I want to scare them, but I always just try to say, like, you don't know who's on the other end of that console. You don't know who's on the other end of that chat. Or I just feel like kids can be fooled so much by something like a cell phone or a gaming console or something, because when you're in a virtual reality of a game, it seems like, hey, my name's Max. I just want to be your buddy, that type of a thing. But you don't know that it's somebody who's a sex predator and is really just trying to get on your good side for very criminal intent.
And the fact that this boy was just 11 years old, I don't know that many parents would have had a lot of those conversations, which you mentioned, which I thought was a really valid point.
Yeah, and I've spoken with other victims advocates and survivor advocates who said, you can't be using cutesy words. I mean, if you're that's why I said in the story, no matter the age that you allow your child to be on these platforms, there's a reason why a lot of these platforms say you need to be at least 13. Our kids just aren't at a maturity level. Their brains haven't developed enough to self-protect so that they're not disclosing personal information, all those things. But there's a lot of other layers. So for them being 11 years old, I think a lot of parents think like, okay, I mentioned stranger danger, birds and bees and stuff like that, but they said you can't be using cutesy names. Like, you have to say, if someone shows you a penis or a vagina, or, and I said it in the story, body parts that are covered by a bathing suit, if you see photographs of that or people start talking about those body parts, just know there are sick people out there who are going to try to do that. It's not okay. It's on them. You come to me, you won't get in trouble. And I think that is a big part of the conversation. So if you're going to allow, and I even know personal friends who have, kids who are in elementary school who are on these games, Fortnite and stuff, for hours at a time. And it's like, if you're allowing your kid to be under the supervision of strangers, really, unless you're on the headset playing with them actively in the moment, then you need to have conversations that explicit, because they don't really understand. They're not expecting to see that. And then maybe there's an allure of some sorts, like, oh, I overheard my older sister or brother talking about this. Well, I'm kind of curious. Tell me more. So then it's kind of like, oh, maybe they're being treated like a bigger kid, and so they're less likely to tell or what. But if you explain to them, anyone who's going to talk to you or show you their penis or vagina or breasts or body parts that you wouldn't see on a beach, that's a sick person. And you need to just talk to us. You're not going to be limited on your gaming time. We know that people out there are using these devices and online websites to take advantage of children. And that's something that I just want you to know that exists out there. If that happens, and it likely will, you come and talk to me or dad or whatever. And then you have that conversation. So it's not like, am I going to get in trouble if I tell them? And then I did ask him a follow-up question or something. Kid's not going to say follow-up question, but like, oh, I was kind of curious and I asked. But if you put it out there like it's a probability, not a possibility, then I think maybe your kid will be more likely to say, oh, this weirdo messaged me today and asked XYZ.
That's a really important point, because I think if you start punishing your kids, you see something you're concerned about, you take the video game console away, then they feel like why would they come to you? Because they don't want to be punished. They want to continue to play.
It's the worst, because as a parent, you want to protect them. Your instinct is to eliminate the threat, and the threat is something that gives them joy. And for this boy who's on the autism and ADHD spectrum, I know a lot of kids who are on the spectrum. They have this one thing. It can be art for some, it can be music for others. And for this boy, it was Fortnite. So to take the one thing that is his joy and that he feels he doesn't have that awkward barrier, he had a hard time making friends in his school environment or with neighborhood kids and stuff. So he felt more confidence in just, in this virtual world. And to have someone exploit that is really terrible. But at the same time, as a parent, you're like, I'm going to eliminate that threat. But then it's punitive to the child because they're like, and that's what mom said. She said to him, you're not getting in trouble for this. And he said, but you took away my game. So I think the other part, me and the photographer and editor, Gilbert, who we worked with this on, he said that was the part that hit him is like, I can't believe after it took months of them like, okay, how are we going to safeguard this when we do let him back on again? Because that is his outlet. And they let him back onto Roblox, which is a very, I think it's geared towards elementary age kids. Concerning because somebody messaged him there in an inappropriate way. And she's like, I just, what are we supposed to do? And I said, do you think he's been honest with you every time? And she said, I don't know that he has. And I don't know that he's been fully honest with the counselor either. He's going through hours of counseling and stuff. You try to do everything you can to help him heal with something like this. And she said, because I think his child brain doesn't get, I'm not going to get in trouble if I admit or explain fully everything this guy did or showed me or asked me about or talked with me about or asked me to do or that I maybe did do in these live chats. Because then it's like a shame, it's a guilt feeling, and it's like, was I complicit? They don't really understand that. And then they're like, am I going to make mom and dad, are they going to be mad at me? Are they going to be disappointed in me? Which is a terrible thing. You're just wanting to protect your kid. And you're like, as much as you can try to assure them you're not going to be in trouble, if you do lock down their accounts, they're going to be freaked out. Like, this is a punishment for me. So it's tough.
Yeah, and the fact that he was approached a second time by somebody else, I feel like this is happening a lot more often than a lot of parents realize.
That's what the prosecutor said. She said these cases are so common. And it's really concerning. So I've even spoken with other detectives in these sex crime units and stuff, and they've said it is truly like whack-a-mole because as many cases as you stop and catch, I mean, this one man that they know of, they can digitally tie his face in videos to at least 3 boys in Phoenix, what was it? Some in Georgia, some in California, some in Florida. And she said there are many other boys on his console that we know that he's interacted inappropriately, criminally with, that we just haven't yet identified. It's like, that's one guy who got 32 years. But they're like, if we worked 24/7, we could keep picking them off one by one by one by one. But if you look at the millions of people who are on these platforms, Fortnite, Discord, Snapchat, all these, what's the probability if you look at the spectrum of society? What's the percentage of them who are sex offenders? What's the percentage of them who are sex offenders, pedophiles, perpetrators who have not yet been criminally charged or convicted? And they're just out there targeting your kids.
Crazy.
It can happen all the time. It's so common. It's really disturbing.
Something else that came out in this was the fact that the suspect was using gift cards and bought one of these children a pizza in exchange for some of this content. I had never heard of that before.
Yeah, I was disturbed by that because I think, and the prosecutor described this pretty well. She says, if you think about what's it going to take, what's going to motivate kids, like if you have a kid, I mentioned, they might engage in this kind of weird conversation that they know is probably not okay because they might be curious, like, but this guy's treating me like I'm an older teenager and that feels kind of cool. Maybe he thinks of me as a cooler person. None of my friends talk to me this way. No older kids or my older brother and sister treat me like a baby. So this guy's treating me like I'm a little bit older. So there's something like they feel kind of cool about that in some way. But when he starts asking them, can you take your pants down? Can you show me your privates? They're like, that could draw the line. So then he pushes the envelope by what else could possibly motivate kids to do something out of character. Money, gift cards, and I'm talking PlayStation points, okay? So it's like you can buy in-app purchases for all of these gaming platforms, Fortnite, Roblox, whatever. I remember my son, sometimes like when he was younger in elementary school, it would be like, what do you want? Grandma's asking for your birthday. And he's like, Roblox gift cards. I'm like, that is just throwing money away. Oh, no, Roblox gift cards. I want a new uniform for my, I don't know what they call them, their little person on the game. And I'm like, how much money is spent on these things? But kids love it. It's a virtual world that they feel, I don't know, they can spend a lot of time in it. So it becomes important in their lives. And if you have somebody who's like, I'll give you $100, a $200 gift card for PlayStation. Oh my gosh, my mom would only ever do $25. You're going to give me $200? Yeah, just do this. It'll be our secret. No one will know about it. It's just me and you. I'm your friend, aren't I? Like, you see how they kind of strip away those normal instincts of self-protecting. And these are kids who don't really even understand what that means. So they're even more vulnerable.
Wow. Because, you know, and in that situation, since they're it's getting points on the platform, parents might not even know because there's nothing outside that console that would alert them to that.
Nothing. No way to know. Unless you're actively playing with them. And that's the other thing, too, is like we talk about setting screen time limits. You have to do it across all platforms. So when our kids get in trouble, that is like, oh, that's the worst punishment is I'm like, I'm going to turn off your screen time. They go and clean the dishes right away. They put out the trash right away. That is like, that's the one thing that they're like, oh, okay, she means business. Because screen time, you can lock it down. Like you can sync up your devices and stuff. So it would be like, I'm going to put a screen time limit or I'm going to turn off your phone, turns off your laptop, your iPad, you know, whatever other device you can get on. But you do have to also look at, Mom said this was another thing that I don't think I put in the story, is that she said after they locked down his device, and we can get into that a little bit more too, because their instinct was probably not what our first instincts would do, but it was the perfect thing to make sure that prosecutors were able to really go after this guy and get the evidence they needed. But she said they thought that they locked everything down, but one thing that they didn't do is they didn't realize he could still communicate through the gaming console. Because you look at like a little, like the joystick or the little handle of the gaming console, and you're thinking, oh, they can't communicate that way. I've locked down all of their, typical devices. But she said their son did send a message to the perpetrator after they had locked everything down. And he said, sorry, I haven't been able to get online. There's something going on with our internet. They made up some ruse that there was something going on with the Wi-Fi or something, the internet wasn't working or something. So their son bought it, and it bought them time to let detectives get in there, take over his console, acting as that preteen boy to make sure that it was crystal clear this man knew he was underage. Because they go, oh, that's the only crux, is like, did he know this boy was 11 years old? But, I mean, he made comments about, like, it would take you this many years to buy this sex toy legally. So he knew that he was intentionally going after young boys.
Wow. And so tell me, what did the parents say about locking down those platforms? How did they know or think to do that? Because I think a lot of parents wouldn't think to do that.
They're so friggin' smart. I'm like, wow, that's why I think it was such a very important lesson. And I'm so glad that they were willing to talk about something so supremely uncomfortable for them as a family to go through. I can't imagine, because your first instinct would be like, let's just not talk about it. Let's just heal from here on out. But bless their hearts for being able to be so candid about something that is so shocking, embarrassing, hurtful, damaging to their family. They were on vacation. So that's when Grandma comes across this unmistakable image of a man with his pants down on her grandson's console, calls Mom and Dad right away. So when he's at school, she walks her mom through how to lock down his accounts. So they had the passwords. That's the key, is like, as long as parents maintain passwords to all accounts, I think that is a very healthy way to handle things too, because if if you let your children set their own passwords, one, they can share it with friends who can lock out accounts. This is something that teenagers do. It's a very bizarre thing, but sometimes they do. They fall out of friendships. People lock down accounts. People go haywire, whatever. But if they don't have their passwords to their accounts and it's a mom and dad control the passwords and you say this is a privilege to be on this, then you can lock down their accounts. So it's like you're blocked from the account. So they were able to do that. And then again, like I said, come up with some sort of ruse to just put their son off on like, oh, isn't it fixed yet or what? So whether it was like the internet or the Wi-Fi was spotty or something like that, he was like, what's going on? Isn't it fixed yet? I'm like, I don't know. We're working on it, trying to figure it out. So they just did that across all platforms. And they also had to take his, I can't remember if he had the cell phone. I'm trying to remember because they did say that he was texting as well with this man. So it's like their biggest concern was if they didn't do that, because again, it's like that fine balance of like, I don't want to punish him for something that is not his fault. But if they hadn't locked down all devices, and one did get through, the console, the gaming console itself, but if they had still let him have his cell phone or something like that, something he could have said unknowingly, even with this ruse, could have tipped off that perpetrator that mom and dad were onto it. Police had been alerted, and then he could have locked down, erased everything. So for the fact that he just kind of played it off, and now that I think of it, sadly, he was one of probably, a handful to a dozen or more victims at the same time. So maybe just this one boy kind of going dark for a few days didn't ping on his radar, but if he had been obsessed with just this one boy, that could have been more suspicious to this perpetrator. But unfortunately, but also worked out for detectives that he had multiple boys he was talking to all at the same time. So they were able to take over the consoles and then identify those boys in Scottsdale, identify the others, and then get him extradited here from Florida.
Wow. Because you think if they didn't have that evidence, they might not have been able to move forward with the serious charges that they were able to pursue in this case.
Right. We also learned that in 2022, his account got flagged on Snapchat. They call it CSAM, child sex abuse material. It's like a federal recognized, anything that shows children in a sexual manner, exposing body parts or otherwise, things like that, it gets flagged. So whether it's by platforms, social media platforms, or otherwise, federal offenses. So his account got flagged on Snapchat, and I said, well, whatever came of that? Did they then report him to Center for Missing and Exploited Children? And our prosecutor here said they would have reached out to authorities in Florida, which is where he is. And she said, but no criminal charges ever came of that. There was never any kind of criminal inquiry on it. So I don't know if the ball was dropped on Snapchat's side of them flagging his account, but then not forwarding it, or if the ball was dropped in law enforcement, like, okay, we've got this, but we don't have much to build a case on or otherwise. So having that evidence here, irrefutable, and that's one thing that the initial prosecutor in the initial court appearance said on camera to the judge when they were discussing, like, how much of a bond should he be held on to begin with after he was extradited here. She said, we have his face on video. There is no question we have the right guy.
Wow.
And when you have a digital footprint online, that is, it's like DNA. You have digital evidence. I suppose in some cases it could be a question of like who was controlling the console in the moment. Could it have been another person in the household? And sometimes that's part of the prosecution, difficulties that detectives have of like, can we say without question that it was this individual in this household who was controlling that gaming device, having those conversations, but he was on camera. There's really no question about it.
Wow. It's also interesting how these platforms don't communicate with one another, which I knew, but it's an important reminder because he's flagged on Snapchat, but it's not like they're going to communicate with Facebook or with Fortnite or any of these other platforms to let them know. So, and I guess he could have just another name, username, something like that. So there's no, it's really hard to, I guess, investigate and identify exactly who is behind each of these accounts.
Yeah. And I mean, if you take it back and kind of zoom out and think of like the olden days when you'd have a shoplifter at Circle K, are they going to flag 7-Eleven? This guy's a chronic shoplifter? Probably not. So with this, they also aren't legally required to do such things. And we've talked a lot in recent years how there has been a push to have more regulation of these platforms that we know are having critical influence over our children's lives. And I think a lot of parents, I think legislators are saying we should have some basis for regulating these platforms. And the platforms have said, when you have hundreds of millions of users, there's zero possibility you're going to have a lockdown on regulation. I've done stories in the past with drug task force guys who are like, it's clear as day when someone is snapping, there's drug dealers with their accounts on Snapchat, and it's like, hit me up. They're showing pictures of their guns, their drugs, their telephone number. I'll deliver to your door, da-da-da. I'm like, there's zero question. This is illegal activity. Why doesn't Snapchat shut them down? But they're just like, well, again, it's kind of like detectives. It's like whack-a-mole. So it's like you either regulate and then you're liable for what you miss, which you're going to miss things because just look at the sheer volume, or you don't regulate and you say it's up to parents to regulate and police your own kids. What's happening in your home, you have to lock that down yourself. It is that's something we've got to figure out as a society. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how you can figure it out. Is there some kind of AI integration that can flag questionable language or questionable images, things like that? But a platform like Discord is known to encourage chat rooms for certain sexual proclivities. So then it comes down to how are they regulating that these are consenting adults having these sexual fetish conversations and not someone who's grooming a child. Right now, all they use is literally a box. You saw it in the story there. And it says age restricted. Are you over this age? And the child just clicks, yep, I'd like to see that content.
Wow. And they can click that in.
It's ludicrous.
Yeah. In like a nanosecond.
Yeah.
Wow. Tell me, you've gotten some feedback on your story from some families that have reached out. What have they said about it?
So one dad reached out and said he was getting down talking about all these different things like condos on Roblox, and these are other things that you need to watch out for. And it was like, you need to do more of a story on Roblox because I think people are aware that Fortnite is kind of a scary place for kids. And I don't know that it's fair to say one is scarier than the other or anything like that. I think he makes a fair point. Roblox, like I said, I believe it's geared more towards like elementary age kids because it's very like Minecrafty. They're kind of blockish characters and, like farm animals and stuff like that. And they're working at a burger shop and doing menial tasks. You're like, what are our kids? Why are they entertained by this? One, maybe that's the bigger societal question. I don't know. That seems to be a problem. Go out and play a game at the park or ride a bike, play baseball. So we need to figure those things out. But as far as like some parents were just saying like, these are the other sites that I find disturbing or what. I also got, we might do another story with this. There's a local nonprofit that works with missing children who she told me she has personally seen, I think she said 70% of the missing/runaway children. And she says, I put an asterisk by that because when they say missing runaway, that's not including kids who are lured off of these websites and gaming sites. And she said 70% in her experience local cases of kids who have run away have been lured off of gaming consoles.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like what percent of, and then it's real tough because we've come across this before, a conversation in our newsroom. How do we cover this story properly? Because just in the last year, DCS has worked on legislation to try to crack down on, like, if a child in the system, an at-risk kid, like a foster situation or in a group home, goes missing, they are required to alert police, alert the media, and put their picture out there. But then for us, we're still in this weird bubble of, like, is there how many kids are runaways? How many are missing / endangered? Like, what's the threshold for it having a news value of, like, we need to get this picture out there and everything? Obviously, like, we don't want any kid to be missing or unaccounted for on our watch. But how do we figure out, like, who's truly considered endangered? And do we know if we haven't looked at their digital footprint, their conversations they're having on Snap, on Insta, on Fortnite, on Discord?
And that brings another point up, which is, at group homes and all of that. I mean, if it's challenging for parents with their kids at home, imagine what it's like in, like, a group home setting.
Right.
I mean, it's a huge issue.
Right. And we just talked about the still unsolved case of Emily Pike, who they said ran away from a group home in Mesa and was found body parts in garbage bags off a remote forest road. So we don't want to slippery slope have parents fear that that's going to be their child. But we can't afford to keep acting like this is a babysitter. I need some downtime after work. Go ahead. You can have 2 hours on your gaming console. That's not great. It's not working out great.
No, it's really a brave new world now, because kids are really media or technology savvy, and sometimes parents aren't, or they try to be, but then you've got all of this outside presence that it's just a very difficult situation.
And that's one of the other, like, we talked about the 3 things you could do. So I mentioned screen time, setting screen time limits and everything like that. But another thing that this mom brought up, and I've heard experts say repeatedly, is, like, if they're sneaking to play, this mom said she would find her son at least once. She said she saw him wake up in the night or something and caught him playing when he was supposed to be sleeping. That's a red flag. So playing outside of set hours, sneaking to play, and also hiding their screens. So if you walk up behind and they're like, "Oh, why are you creeping on me?" I've heard my teen say that before. Or if they ask, "Can I have this my console in my room instead? It's bothering you guys. I'd just like to move it to my bedroom or something." Keep it in a living room. We have, like, an office off the side of our living room that there's no door. At least something like that where you can, as the parent, walk behind, see what's going on at any moment. They're less likely to engage in risky behavior if the screen is available for everyone to see.
Wow. Really valuable information. Thank you so much for talking us through all of this. Just incredible story.
Scary.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So scary, but some takeaways that I think a lot of families can use moving forward in this brave new world.
Yeah, we hope so. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Arizona's Family Investigates podcast.